Hi, I'm Kevin Hill, and today we're going to do a beautiful painting with a lot of sunlight in the background and a few birch trees. It should be a lot of fun, and if you're enjoying this and you're looking forward to seeing it, and you'd like to see more, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more painting videos. All right, let's get started. We'll start off today with a 1-inch brush. I'm just dropping in, oops, there goes a hair, just dropping in a little bit of a nice light sky. And I went ahead and sketched out because I knew there wasn't going to be much sky, so there you go. There's a light sky right there, and using a nice kind of almost white, here it is on the brush, almost white. I'm going to place on just a little background light back in the background. Oh, that's a bad way to say it, isn't it? There we go. That looks decent right there. That's decent. Of course, we've got a little clear gel and white just in the sky area only today. Very small, about a 1 inch, and that's it. Now with the filbert brush, I'm going to scrub in kind of a shadow tone to this water. And it's a purple, but then I added some yellow ochre to it in order to calm down that purple. I didn't want it so purpley because there's no purple in the background. We can have a little, and we are going to have some greens and stuff, but we don't want so much that it's going to look out of place. These are just the shadow tones anyway. We're going to do, some nice highlight tones in yellow, so leave some empty areas. Especially down here toward the middle, we can have some empty areas. So that's kind of the idea. Just a little purpley shadow, but not too vibrant. Now I'm going to go ahead and just set down large patches of yellow, light color, because, here's my palette, because we're going to put the darks underneath and blend the two together with a fan brush, just like we usually do when it comes to large grassy fields. It's just simply the easiest technique with the best result. It just happens to be the easiest. It's the best result, if you ask me. There, it's better than painting it with a, 1x1 with a 1-hair style brush, or even trying to get it in quick with a large brush. This is about just as easy and just as fast, if not easier, because you have to think less. And I think the result is twice as good because it's a little more ragged and a little more natural. Now I've got a fan brush and a paper towel. You won't need your palette for this step. Make sure your fan brush is good and clean. All right, now we're going to go ahead and probably start in the light areas. Definitely start in the light areas and sort of soften them a little. See where it's kind of harsh. You just tap it. Of course, this is obviously optional. If you want to just leave it like this, you can, right? You don't have to go through all this. All right, and then once you're kind of done with I'm constantly wiping, but once you're done with the lights, you come into the darks. And then you can just touch it like this and melt them right in. And then to get larger strokes, you simply use a little more force and a bigger, a bigger sweep to it. You get a lot larger blade of grass that way. Nice, but then once you kind of exit on your darks, you want to wipe your brush before going back in the lights. Otherwise, you'll have one color. Nobody wants one color. Now with the 3/4 brush, I'm going to just kind of drop in these little leaves. You see I've got a very pretty bright yellow color going on here. And the 3/4 brush is softer than something like the filbert brush, so it works real well for this. I did think about getting out our detail round, but I wanted to have more than one just brush stroke up here. I want to have several. So the detail round, we'll use it later, but for now, stick with this 3/4 brush. Plus, this is just a tiny bit faster. Of course, the more you do these little comma strokes, the faster they get, right? But this is nice anyways. And then as you go to the left, maybe we'll get a little darker, but as we go to the right, we might even get just the tiniest, if we can, if we even can, just a little bit brighter. There's a lot of paint down on here today. A lot of paint in the background. Well, not the dark trees, but the leaf coat is fairly thick. Because this is a backlit tree, I'm doing the highlight first. That's why this is looking so different. Nice, look at that. Barely see it, but that's okay because the contrast is coming. It's a little bit hard to picture right now, but the contrast is coming. That'll make it pop a lot better. Don't destroy all of those background trees, but most of them are going to probably go away. There. Nice, and just kind of blend everything together. The more you touch it, the softer it becomes. So only hit it once or twice. That's kind of the best thing you could do. Nice. I kind of like this negative spot right here. It's interesting. So we'll try to leave that. Now we're going to go ahead and do a lot of comma strokes with a detail round brush. Quite a lot. And we'll be changing the color. Here's my palette. I've got a lot of colors already on the palette. I'll just scoop up kind of what I think will work and toss it in. Some red ones toward the middle. Kind of indicate a little light filtering through some yellow ochre, all that good stuff. Remember, we're working from light to dark because these are backlit trees. The light's coming from behind. So you want to maybe not go as dark as you want right off the bat here. Kind of get some of these mid-tones in. So we've got kind of some shadowy green ones. Now we got some kind of mid-tone orange ones, and we're getting into the darker greens here, especially as we move away from the light. There. Nice. Just kind of slow it down just a little. I mean, we got this in really quick with that bigger 3/4 brush, but now we got this little tiny detail round brush, and it'll go a little slower, but not a lot. Nice. So we'll just keep doing this over and over and over and over and over until we've got just the effect that we want. Definitely a good idea to stop and stand back and look at your painting from at least 6 feet away to make sure you like the way it's going. See that? And of course, if you need help with trees, we've got DVDs just for that. So definitely go check it out. Just a little practice. It doesn't take a whole lot. You get really good looking trees pretty quick. There, oh yeah, I like that. That's really looking nice. Keeping my highlight, or my shadow, this would be a highlight normally, but keeping my shadow kind of in the middle, allowing my highlight to show how that's already down on the outside there. Cool. Always picking up a different color too, that's very important. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add several large trees up here. And it's kind of important to get these pretty dark and mash the paint in. You'll see you pick up the light and drag it through the dark, which is actually okay. That's not a bad thing, but it's important that you get this worked in real well into the canvas. We also may need to wipe these off before we add a whole lot of detail to them. It's just kind of the way it is. Let's go over to the left. I can also do our very large one, which is going to kind of start up here. Oh, it's huge. And we'll just drag that right down. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on our little waterfall. I've already put on kind of the mid-tone and the shadow, the mid-tone first. And now I'm going to do the highlight. Oh, this is sure out of order, isn't it? Mid-tone, shadow, and then highlight. It's a little weird, but not too bad. And I think that we're going to benefit from this though, because then I can just stick the highlights on the very top of the little waterfall feature areas. And then everywhere else kind of doesn't get so bright. I think it'll make it a little more interesting. But you see how I can see these little shelves in here? I don't know, they're so small, I don't know if you can even really tell what I'm doing. But I'm just trying to make it a little more interesting with these little drop-offs and little fast-moving areas. Very light touch. There's actually not a lot of paint back there, which is great. I can see the grain of the canvas all the way through there. That makes it easy. Down here, there's more paint. We may end up having to wipe some of it off depending on what we do with this waterfall. But so far, so good. And I know I do want rocks around it. So we'll probably do those in a second. There, just kind of finish up putting a little highlight on the top. Lots of paint. See all that paint? If you don't use a lot, it's not going to go on very bright. And you'll be kind of dissatisfied with the overall brightness of it, I'm sure. There, you can go right over the green in some cases without causing any real big problems. Now we can go back and add shadow and just kind of drop in some extra detail. I've just got a nice purple, let me show you here, a nice soft purple, and I've toned it with just a little brown. And that's great, that really helps, I think. helps to make it fit with the painting. And of course, we are not stuck with that color. We can do just about any color that we want. Here's some kind of some yellow ochre. Maybe we need to, I always like to see some sand underneath. So maybe we need to add some sand right underneath this water. But because the water is, you know, fairly dark at the bottom, we don't have to worry about it kind of making mud. Now we're going to go ahead and work on our birch trees. And this is very much a backlit situation. I'm going to say our light source is somewhere right in here. So on this tree, there'll be more light on the right-hand side. That doesn't mean I won't put just the tiniest bit on the left. I may, just to kind of give it a glow. We'll see. May or may not decide to do that. But what's fun is we can kind of make it up as we go along. As far as the lighting is concerned, just a little here and there, maybe on that left side. Yeah, that looks like it's glowing. Nice. Well, I like that. Looks ugly now, but the reason I like it is because I know where we're headed. At least I know where I hope we're headed. Always stick that light outside the dark. That's the most important thing about highlighting. The most important. There you go. And then what I plan to do here is just take a little bit of purple. This is just some random purple head sitting around here, and place that in the middle as a kind of a mid-tone shadow for the birch trees, since after all, we want them to feel like they're white. And this is a pretty bright painting, so that's our kind of mid-tone shadow. It seems like every time I want to go to paint a birch tree, I do some sort of a slightly different technique to actually paint them. And this time on this really big one, because this is way bigger than normal, because our horizon is higher than normal, I am kind of going really crazy. Now, I did wipe this one down really good with a paper towel. I've also got a lot of color built in. The others will be more normal, but this one is not normal. I'm glopping the paint on extremely thick. In fact, I'm out of white. I'm going to need to go get some more. But let me at least show you how to do this little spot. There. So pull it down. And here's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go ahead and just look at all that paint. I'm going to take it and kind of just work it back in a round. See that little round pull? And my brush is fairly matted. See how I kind of mat the brush like this? This is a little 3/4 flat brush. It's soft, so it layers the paint really nicely. And you kind of go around what might be potentially some little knots. Of course, we need to do our darks, but this is a great start, isn't it? Look at all those colors that we're building in. Nice and bright. Look at the yellow. The yellow's kind of pretty, but lots of thick texture on this tree. That'll help it look bright. It'll also bring it closer. It's an oil painting. People pay more for texture, don't they? You can jack the price up a little. There, just got done kind of very carefully around my trees, removing some of the background paint. And we really have to do that. Each area you want these little blades of grass. And then to put the blades of grass in, I simply got my detail round, a bunch of fresh white. That's very important. Very bright, pure color. And then I should be able to, because this brush is soft, layer it right over the background as long as we wiped it off. Mixes a little still, of course, but nothing like it would. There. Isn't that pretty? Reload frequently. Each time you reload, it's okay if you want to just get a slightly different color. But this is just a nice way to add those bits of detail here in the background. And in the foreground, actually. Just kind of pull it straight down. It's a little bit of a weird technique, but it makes this area look more detailed. And up here you can kind of dot. There's that white paint in the background is okay to leave that. That's not gonna hurt anything. And if you need to go back down into the dark, you just wipe it off. That looks decent though, doesn't it? It starts to get just a little more shiny, a little more pretty. Just with that. If you touch the trees, it's no big deal. We can always get back in there and sort of put them back in. So that's certainly not a big deal. Actually, I'd love to see a little more green. Here we go, put a little sap green right into this. I would love to see a little more green tones kind of sparkling through here. Oh, there it is. There's just all sorts of colors. There's some more right there. Very bright though, kind of a low contrast background, but it's not flat. That's important. We don't want to make it flat. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to this big bush here on the right. It's pretty dark and I want to keep it that way. We'll just have a very nice little highlight on the outside edge. But we do need a mid-tone in it. So I'm just going to drop in dark green. Honestly, that's about all there is. Just kind of do it around the trees. And again, like always, I put my trees in out of order because it helps me to fill the whole painting in and get it kind of close to at least finished as far as the placement of the trees. And it helps me to kind of understand, how bright we need to highlight the stuff that's in the background. So yes, it's out of order. The traditional order would be to start with the furthest thing away and work forward. So you have to paint around the trees, but look at this, who cares? Well, number one, those could be leaves from the tree here, or number two, we can easily, repaint if we need to. So I'm just not gonna worry about it. There you go. Just to make a point, I'm gonna purposely mess those trees up. All right, not that anybody, I'm probably the only one standing here concerned. Everybody else is like, oh yeah, I get it. They didn't have to make a big deal of it, but oh well. What are you gonna do? There's some dark. Because this brush is a lot softer than the original one we used to block this in, whatever that was, I guess the filbert brush, I can't quite remember. Long day. Then what'll happen is this helps to layer the paint on just a little more smoothly. It goes on just a little darker that way. It doesn't mix so much with what's underneath. Now we're gonna do things just a little out of order here. I've got my liner brush going in a nice, very thin mix, just a nice light yellow, kind of a golden sunlight yellow. And I'm going to try to create a lot of tall grass right here in this area. And this works out great. It goes on so bright and so detailed. Normally I save the liner brush work to the very end. It is the last thing that we do. And we do it for about, 5 minutes and we're done. Today I think we're gonna do quite a lot of extra liner brush work, just for the sake of trying something different. How's that? So I wouldn't say we're done. I mean, we may do a lot more painting after this, but we're gonna have to realize though that everything that we touch with this liner brush is gonna be pretty much off limits. It's gonna be real thin. And that'll cause just enormous problems if we try to go to paint over it. And so we're not gonna paint over it. We'll avoid the enormous problems. You need to always be changing the paint color slightly. That'll give you a better look to the painting. So I like to put my light ones in and the dark ones to kind of push the light ones back. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. Some nice bright tall ones right over this dark, and they'll put dark ones right over the light. It'll add an enormous amount of detail. And this painting, because of where the horizon is, these blades of grass need to be about twice as tall as normal, at least. There, so they're a lot closer. And I think when you're viewing it a little lower to the ground, as if you're sitting on the ground. That's this kind of view. And that'll help add to the effect of this, having these really tall blades of grass. There we go. That's very important that we do that. If you have just short little blades of grass, it'll look like you're up in a helicopter and looking down on the scene. It's not going to look right. So keep that in mind. All right, I'm also going to add tree limbs and stuff, but I'm only spending a little bit of time here on the grass. But you see how it just goes right over that, so bright. And it's one of the advantages to do it this way. Get a nice bright highlight super easy, with no real risk of making any mud at all. Now I'm putting in our final dark little blades of grass. You can kind of see my palette here. I've got all sorts of paint thinned down on the liner brush. Most of these details were done with the liner brush. I did have to change just to get some of these flowers in, but actually did some of them with the liner brush. But It's good to have a couple of different brush strokes going. The detail round brush is really good for flowers. There, that's actually really pretty decent. I'm just getting those final dark ones in. I went ahead and put limbs in. You guys know how to do that. You just take the little liner brush and you kind of just go along. There you go, you get your limb. Pretty easy. But if you guys are at all struggling, we do have a video for trees available on the website. A nice full, actually several. I think we have 3 of them right now. Technique series trees. They're good. They'll help you learn really a lot faster than just trying to figure it out on your own. There, and I'm focusing these grass blades here mostly at the bottom because that's where the shadows would be. And I'm allowing my light stuff to show at the top. Don't want to ruin it. We just spent a long time putting it in. There's a lot of strokes in here. If you guys are not comfortable with the liner brush, try this painting out, right? And you'll get there. Oh yeah, it's a lot of liner brush work. All right, well, I think we're done. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, and brush line. Thanks for watching.